I realize that most folks out there can understand how this works. As I've always mentioned, I started out at 4 years of age, right? And I'm not supposed to experience anything less than what I am, which is what love is goes on forever, which means I'm a one. So I gave a command that anything that is less than what that is, which is eternity, gets deleted. Why? To be in perfect balance with every sphere. That's every sphere. That's every living star. It's a real living star with a soul, arcing in spirit to experience being loved, because that's what the law is. So when you represent the law and you're going to be honorable and truthful with what you are, which is what love is, which is what the truth is, then you're going to get rid of and transmute anything that is represented by any plasma wave that is distorted and out of alignment with the law of one. So I've been doing that since 4 years of age. That's a transmutation machine. That means that a lot of the videos that I have put up, and actually everything that I've experienced since I was a little kid, you can't enumerate that much data or that much information has been memory dumped, which means the circulation libraries are always changing because you're eliminating, if you will, out of the planetary, galactic, and universal memory banks in order to do what? Restore the law. Okay? That's really what it is. So when you've lit yourself on fire, what happens is you become a multiversal server. Okay? So you can imagine how much information that is represented by codes. Codes are information, which are lines of communication, which are DNA lines of communication, which is communication between every unit of consciousness that has or ever will be to experience what love is. Because that's what they're entitled to. That's what the law is. And so one of the things that I do is share everything that I'm experiencing and realize that a lot of it's happening so fast. I only share in little bits and increments because when you're running a multiversal server with my oversoul as a polarity integrator, it's like choosing what to share, what not to share based on the information that you've experienced that's held in your memory bank, right? And then you go between no memory and memory. And so one of the things that I was reminded of, because a process is such an enormous amount of data as you want to experience it as data, if you will, right? And then how other people share their libraries because we're connected to the Kosmina records. So what we experience, as I mentioned as a little kid, I'm only going to hold in memory what is necessary now to experience in the future what I share with all of you, because it has future value. Otherwise, why would I be here? Right? There has to be some compelling reason that an oversoul would come in at exactly the very precise time when there was a flash in my mother's womb. That's called an entry point, through a gate, to enter into the realm in order to perform the job that we do. So without being redundant and repeating a lot of information that was shared by the Voyager materials, because it's all there, because all this has actually already happened. That's why in some ways it's like I'm sharing stuff that's actually already happened, because you're not experiencing anything in the now or the completion of a magnetic circuit, which is the speed at which you're experiencing who you are with your soul consciousness, whether you're creating anything or not, or whether you're providing server service, which means stuff that's running in the background, if you will, through artificial intelligence, which is a dead light magnet, and what's represented by our magnets, which is living light magnets, and the torque speed differential between one and the other. So you have an inverter and an accelerator, right? So you see how that works between sunup and sundown. And the light is always on. An eternal star is always on, so the light is always on. But what I was going to address, because of things, if you were, that people have communicated with each other, how they respond to the information that is now circulating through all the libraries, which are all the veins in the arteries, if you will, of the planetary memory banks, the bow voltage, if you will, living magma, right? Molten voltage. Isn't that what blood is? Molten voltage. And so I was observing several conversations, part of which came out of Project Ascension stuff with Patty Bessard, Karen and Luke McDonald, right? Tanith of the Silver Legion, and all sorts of folks, everyone from Miles Johnson, the Basis Project, and every other speakerphone, because I was pouring through an enormous amount of stuff. Okay? And so one of the things that I remember that was sort of important that I felt maybe this is important enough to address when it comes to frequencies, right? Codes, base 12 math, which is 3, right? And some of the conversations people had about, if you will, having more strands or having more frequencies doesn't make you better than us, and how this is sort of perceived with the exchange, right, of communication and what have you. And so I've always kept it simple, which means love is the law. You're on your own. Green light, emerald green light, go, go, go. We don't hold energy captive, right? So you realize you're on your own, self-directed learning. You know, you're connected to the one, so you're experiencing the first teacher, which is what love is. So now you're going to be learning at the highest rate of speed if you're learning through the law, because you're experiencing the one. If you're experiencing the one, which is what the law is, you're learning at the highest rate of speed. So they interfered with that by running implants and frequencies. Now we're back into the frequencies. Now we're back into the codes. Now we're back into the strands. Okay? So you realize, particularly with the indigos, why the indigos were brought in here, because I know this, being a one or a multiversal server, if you will, that if you want to be a guardian at the highest guardian level on behalf of the one, which are the Kosmina records, then you want to be able to run every frequency, which means you have the ability to experience through your receptor, your stereo receiver, every frequency, which is a code, which is a code transfer, which is a signals intelligence, which is a signet. Hey, I'm picking up your signal. So in other words, the more strands and the more frequencies that you have that are coded into your avatar at a cosmic level allows you to be able to sense. Hypersensitivity and hyper speed allows us, just like I'm inside of a big echo chamber, which is like inner Earth, the echo worlds that I'm connected with, to experience frequencies like, it's like, shut the radio set off, man. So you got to learn how to be able to tune it out. When you have mastered a cosmic level radio set, there isn't any strands of frequencies and codes that you can't pick up and translate. That's the advantage of that. But that doesn't mean that you need all those strands in order to experience what you are in energy by the frequencies and the codes that you're running in your radio set, which is your software. Right? But when you're going to be a cosmic level guardian, you need to have all the frequencies loaded, so you get a better feel for what's going on in the entire Kosmina. Right? So there are some advantages, okay, from a guardian level perspective on why you'd want to be able to load everything. Load it all. Now we're back into Morpheus. Load the programs. Right? So anything that is running in all the programs, that is running by the units of consciousness that experience what they are in codes, which is the lines of communication between the codes, which is the signals, anything that's less than what love is, when you're running a cosmic level antenna, allows you to be able to do what? Transmute it. For what purpose? In order for them to be able to experience the one. So when you're running a cosmic level, all the strands, then allows our frequencies to see whether or not, by feeling them, which is sensing them, if any frequencies based on those codes that are based on all those strands are not in balance. Because what do you think the purpose and function of a strand is? Codes, frequencies, transmitters, receivers. Right? So for me, I want to run the most powerful antenna as a guardian. But I don't have the codes loaded in frequencies, then I'm running a lower radio set, a lower band radio set, because that's what it is. How many bands are you running? How many bands do you want to load? All of it. So I knew that at 4 years of age. I want to experience all of it because I'm on fire. Right? That's a one. That's a one guardian. That's how that works. Okay? So it's not about an ego. It's about being a guardian. Because if there's something out there that's being experienced by a different frequency and a different strand, right? In order for me to be able to balance that, if their consciousness is not in balance, right? Because they're not able to know how to run a full radio set, then a cosmic level avatar can tune it out and then rebalance that. Now they're experiencing the balance, right? And their radio set, because there's another radio set that is there that is balancing it for them. And that keeps all the waves through all the star networks in balance automatically, because they learned how to run a cosmic level avatar antenna. That's really what it is. Learn how to run a radio set. What's your radio bands? What's your radio frequencies? Load the frequencies. How many frequencies can they load into an avatar? Light yourself on fire and see. You can run them all. Now you're with the one. Because you know the one can run them all. Why is that? So the one always knows what's going on in frequency and codes. So that we're all experiencing the one. Which is what love is. Which is what the law is. See, when you're experiencing balance, that means that, guess what? There isn't any distortions. If there isn't any distortions, that means one signal's coming through, the first one. First line of communication. That's what a cosmic level guardian does. That's what it means to go full cosmic. A full cosmic avatar, right? Audio, video, avatar, audio, video. You know what tar is, right? The resin, right? The catalyst. You're on fire. So I wanted to say that, as I mentioned before, a lot of times because I don't want to experience the resistance that somebody has by the way that I communicate, because of what gets exposed by what's held in somebody else's memory that they're being held captive by. Right? Because what you're really doing is measuring resistance in other folks as a lack of healing, right? Of stuff that's held in memory as a result of injuries, trauma, you name it. And that actually includes all the trauma that we have a connection to in a circulation library, like a planetary memory bank, a galactic memory bank, a universal memory bank, cosmic level memory bank. So when you're on a cosmic level receiver, it means that anything that anybody's experiencing, any miasma that's left to be cleared out of what love is, it goes on forever, we're experiencing it. And that's how we know the difference between we are and what they are. Which means you're being held captive by something that's held in memory as a result of trauma. Whether it's sexual trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, spiritual trauma. Right? Which causes them to have a loss. They're losing. Right? Because something's feeding on us. Pulling on our energy. Pull the tug of war. Instead of experiencing perfect balance. So when all the plasma waves are in perfect balance, guess what? That signal's getting through. The first signal. Now they're experiencing the first crystal wave. The first cell phone. A living cell. Right? Yeah. Okay. I know. It really is that simple, Conjoy. I'm just like a little 4-year-old little kid that it's never left me. I'm always at home, and that's called home base. Base. Right? The base math. The programming codes. I call it a base station, in radio terminology, Sparks, they were the Sparks, working in naval communications. I'm Sparks, with a lightning bolt, right? I had a little merit badge when I was a Boy Scout that had sparks on that. When you got to learn communications, right? You got all the merit badges, it goes across, the cross across your chest with all the little merit badges. You go through the Boy Scout manual or Cub Scouts before that when you were wearing a blue uniform, with the little teddy bear. The blue hats just look like a lot like a baseball cap, like a 9-ball diamond. Want to play 9-ball? And why they set those diamonds up the way that they set those up? I know, it's the geometry and the spiritual flow of music. There's distorted, big sucking sound, right? Oh, they love to suck on that emotional energy, all right. Because they can't self-generate that much power, which is a plasma field generator, right? So you know that your heart is the most powerful plasma field generator, right? Boom that signal out. It's just booming the one signal out. the first line of communication. That's anchoring the rod to Mama's magnetosphere. The center point of balance of every sphere, so that all units of consciousness are experiencing what we are, which what love is. So I'm happy for you, Kanjoy. She's this beautiful soul from Thailand is very special to me. Okay, when she put up her sort of signet, with a feline, and her sword and her shield. Particularly, I could cry. What she uses her energy for, she takes in stray animals. You know how that deals with abandonment issues, right? My mother was an orphan. Both my mother and my aunt, or my mother and her sister, were both orphans in Toronto. And then met my father at a ball. One night stand. Notice that, a one night stand. So the one can come in. So the one can come in through my mama's gate when the flash, right, which happens before the ignition of that fire. That's speed. That's the fastest speed there is when it comes in. When I came in. At a precise. That's how precise it is. That means you've eliminated every possible variable, so that there's only one left, and that's the one. So the one comes in. Yeah. I know. It's that simple. 1 is 0, 0 is 1. The 1 is simply a rod. It just looks like a 1. Complex number space between negative and positive magnetic polarity. Cancel out the polarities. What are you left with? No polar. No bipolar disorder, which means nothing that's binary. Oh, so now you're experiencing 3. Yeah, Mama's 3. Now we're back to 1. Now we're back to 12, which is 3. 3, 6, 9, right? Then you have what? The even numbers, right? 4 is a tetrahedron, right? Anyway, have a good afternoon. I felt that I would air that, what it means to be on the airwaves, which is the radio waves. I wanted to be able to air that because of the radio set that I run and why I run the radio set that I do. Okay? So I wanted to share that with all of you. Why I run the radio set that I do. I love radios. You know that? So I had to thank my father for giving me a little radio set to put together when I was a little kid called a shortwave radio. Being around ham radios and, Ra-D-I-O, yippity-yoo-da, yippee-I-O, remember yippee-I-O? Yippee-I-O, I-ray, right? Ra, the rays, the lava tube rays, the cathode ray tube rides, remember our tube rides? And I think I may have mentioned this before, but if you did miss it, I'll mention it again. One of the most beautiful geologic places to see. I remember this guy out of, what was his name? Rose, the guy that was doing research about what were known as microtubules, about memory and consciousness and how memory is held and how the morphogenetic field structure worked. Penrose, that was his name. Roger Penrose, who is out of the UK, was working with another neurosurgeon guy who went into neurobiophysics, I guess it was, out of the University of Arizona. I listened to a lot of that stuff, and then I had listened to a lot of what Guy McPherson had to say, who himself was, what do they call it, an emeritus professor of conservation biology. And so conservation biology tells you that when it comes to reproduction, that the species that goes bye-bye first are the ones that are inverters, which means the bigger the inverter, the quicker it goes bye-bye. The accelerators, the more you accelerate in your learning to become an accelerator, experiencing more light. As Kim pointed out, you want to get out of here and get up there. Has to do with the speed of learning. So you can see how they were trying to slow down the speed of learning and interrupt the circuits of the neocortical with biochips, all kinds of implants, to do what? Short circuits. So that the speed at which communication is taking place between your heart and your soul and the rest of your circuits up here, right, we're being shorted out. So you know what a short is, right? Like a rat up in your attic is eating away at the wires. And next thing you know, you're losing power and your air conditioner system goes down because now it's not properly grounded. So you know what being properly grounded is, right? That's bare feet on mama. So you see how short circuits take place, right? Particularly through the phones, the PCs, and everything else that are running 10 code, which is black goo code, which is binary, which is a video war game. So there was a lot of little pieces of information that Kim Gugun came out without having to unleash the whole coil of the whole library in order to connect all the dots, because one of the things that you realize, because I realized it just through experience, if I start to open up a library that gets very big, Mr. Smith pops up. Bye. That's called a short circuit. And that short circuit comes by through what? The AI. Will not let that being experience an expanded library, and you see that on the internet. Right? It's just like me. When I communicate and put these videos up, you want to know what happens to me? I've already been attacked by a bunch of bugs ever since this morning by virtue of the videos I put up since early this morning. Okay, that's what happens. And they actually appear out of nowhere. You see how that works? All you got to do is turn a switch on. It's like all of a sudden produce a computer-generated image that comes into being, right? Now it's going to attack the light, right? In order to do what? Break the circuit, break the flow. Break the spiritual flow of communication that comes from my heart and soul to all you. That's right. So as you're running at a slower rate of speed, break the circuit, what happens? You're not grounded. Now I got to start over again. So it interrupts. It's an interrupter of your communication, which means it's an interrupter of your flow, because it does not want others to experience your heart communication. When the heart shield is up, okay, so it's always wanted to break your shield, which means it's always wanted to interrupt the circuit in order to break the heart, or if you will, the connection between an electron, proton, and a neutron. That's called a broken arrow, right? Which is a broken circuit. Right? Slow the immune system down. Right? Right? Between acid and alkaline. Acid batteries, alkaline batteries. Or if you will, no batteries required. No charge to experience what love is. The real McCoy. The one that's here. Yeah. We're all here. The gang's all here. Thank you all for being here. I love you with all my heart and soul. Yeah. Gifting crystals, gifting sand, diamond pink rose, gifting you all roses. That's what I do when I go out there. Gifting you all pink roses. Come on, sky in the mirror, show me pink. Yeah, and it just naturally happens. Every time I breathe in and out, I see the pink. Yeah.